Hi guys, this is week 28 Project Life, and this week I was very lucky to get a sneaky peek at Brandi's latest Extravagant Hope kit. So I printed out a few of my favourite cards, and let's be fair, it's just about all of them. I love these kits each month. And I've got my photos and I'm just filling in the cards. I really love this bird card, but it's not quite the right size, so I'm going to change it in Photoshop. So I've just opened a new canvas in Photoshop and I've sized that at 6 by 4 inches because that's the size of the card I need. And all I'm going to do is drag the PNG file, Brandi's Littlest Birds PNG file, onto my canvas, which brings it up at the 3 by 4 size because that's what size the card is. Now there's a few ways to go about making this 3 by 4 into a 6 by 4. And probably the easiest one is just to increase the size of the 3 by 4 card until it is the width of the 6 by 4. And then you can go ahead and move those birds to wherever you want them so that they sit nicely on the card and go ahead and print that. But what I want to do is keep the birds at their original size. So I'm just going to delete that and drag that PNG in one more time. Just hit enter to place that onto my canvas and move it across. So I want to keep these little birds at this size here. You can see if I duplicate this layer and move that across, it doesn't join up here in the middle because these little birds are cut off on the PNG file. So we need to do a tiny bit of editing before we can just duplicate that layer like that. So I'll just move this over, we will use that later. And I'm going to click onto my original Littlest Birds layer. So I'm going to click on the lasso tool. And if you click and hold down, you'll bring out your fly out menu of optional tools. So your regular lasso tool is here, and I'm going to choose this one. I'm not going to try and say it because I have no idea how to say that word, but that will just select things in straight lines. So I'm going to really roughly select the area around one of these right facing birds. And then I'm going to go edit and copy, or Command C, and then Command V to paste. Now you can't see anything because it's right on top of it, but you can see here in the layers palette there's an extra layer here, and that's because we've got an extra bird. And then I'm just going to place him over top of that cut off bird. Now this one down the bottom here is also, he's just got a slightly cut off tail, so I'm going to repeat that process with one of the left facing birds. And to copy this one I have to make sure I'm back on the original layer in my layers palette, and then again copy and paste. Use my arrow tool to move him on top. Now if you want to be super specific about where he is sitting, just lower the opacity of that layer and you'll see it makes it lighter, so then you can make sure that you're placing him directly on top of the other bird. You can use your arrow keys, but if you've selected a little bit of white around the outside of that bird, it won't matter if he's not exactly in the right place. And now I can go back to the second copy of the original card that I had, and I just want to move him down a little bit because there is this cut off bird here. So I'm just going to move that down so the cut off bird isn't there, but you'll see I just need to click and drag this layer underneath those single birds that we cut out so that it's not being covered up. And I kind of feel like I want to add one more bird up here just to fill this gap. So all I'm going to do is duplicate one of the single bird layers that we've already created. Move him up there. And there's my 6 by 4 card using the 3 by 4 PNGs. And I can go ahead and print this and use it in my layout. So now I've printed out my 4x6, I can go ahead and swap out the 3x4 card, and I've got just one spot left to fill out. Now I love this peachy card, and it seemed like such a waste to cover up the beautiful saying underneath the photo. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of washi tape, and I decided to go with this orange stripe just to really bring out the peach color, is create my photo into a little flap. And you could do this with hidden journaling or anything like that, but I just don't want to cover up that quote. So now I've got a little flap that I can have my quote underneath it, and really I'm the only one that knows that it's there, but that's all that matters. There's a little bit of empty space in the photo of me and Lily walking, and the shape of this speech bubble it fits nicely, but I need to print it out smaller. So I just went back and adjusted that in Photoshop, and then I can trim that out with my Cutaway scissors and stick that into the little gap that's there. And actually, now that I'm editing this video, I realize the photo's upside down anyway, but it kind of still works. Now I'm using the Extravagant Hope stamp set that you can grab from Feed Your Craft, and it goes perfectly with all of Brandi's kits. And I want to do a little bit of stamping on some of these photos and cards. So for this bottom photo here, I decided to do some stamping on these tags. I had these colourful tags, so I'm layering a couple together. I picked a yellow and a green just to pull in some of the colours in the spread, and I'm going to just stick those down underneath my photo. But I don't think that I've stamped on these tags before, and before I stamp on them with the Memento Luxe, I just want to make sure that it's going to stamp properly. So I grabbed a green one because I know I'll probably never use those, just to test it out, and it stamped fine. So there's a tip: make sure you test your ink when you're using different surfaces to make sure that it is going to stamp properly and not ruin your page. Now I'm going to add a little bit of stamping to this flapped photo as well, and I stamped a little bit on the card, and then I'm joining two of these phrases together just to stamp onto the bottom of the photo, just to make the whole thing a little bit more cohesive. I also feel like that little stamp on the card, it kind of looks like an arrow, which might indicate that there's something to do on that card. Not particularly, but at least it will remind me anyway. This photo has no other meaning for this week other than it was just a scene that struck me as I was doing the dishes. So this is the window above my sink. So I grabbed the Here and Hopeful stamp and just did a row of stamping underneath the photo, and I really love how that turned out. Now I'm desperately trying to add a couple of stamps to this sushi photo down the bottom here. The stamp I want to use is probably too big and the photo is too busy, so I'm trying to make the tags work, but where I want to place this stamping, it would mean that the tag was facing the same direction as the other tags, and I didn't really like the way that looked. So I decided to just stamp it out on some white card. So I used that grace stamp. I think it says, give me space and grace. And what I wanted to do was use these narrow alphas from Feed Your Craft to add and sushi underneath, which means that my whole stamping cluster is quite large. So you can see it's too large to fit on that tag. So I went through my metal dies and grabbed out my circle die, which is too small, and this tag die, which I know it's too small. I know as I'm doing it that it's too small, but I persist. I grab some washi tape, I stick it down, I run it through my diamond press, and you'll see there's zero white space on it. I mean, all of the stamping fit, but it's so tight, it's uncomfortable to read. So I decide to give up and do it again. It's not often I do this, you'll know that, but I did it again, and then I grabbed a slightly larger circle die and cut it from that so I can hang it off the top of my photo, and I really love the way that looks. So I'm glad that I changed my mind and did it twice. I'm not adding a lot of embellishment to this page apart from the stamping, so I grabbed these puffy stickers from I think the Ali Studios, and just adding some little puffy hearts all over the place. So I added a cluster of 3 to that one card, 1 to my tags and 1 to my sushi stamping, and now all I've got left to do is my title card. I grabbed a label stamp from an older Kelly stamp set that was out on my desk and just stamped that in black ink, and then I can fussy cut that out and do my date stamping on it and then just stick that onto my card. And I want to use the same alphas that I stamped out sushi with to stamp out my week title. So I just am unsure how I'm going to do that. I didn't want to add just black, so I'm going to try and grab some coloured inks, and I figure I'll go with sort of orangey colours because there are quite a few in this spread. Now these narrow alphas come with an outline and a solid, so I'm just using a bit of spare card to experiment here, which isn't like me. I would normally just rush straight in, but I'm glad that I did, because the first thing that I tried with the black outline, I didn't like it. I tried to offset it. I didn't really enjoy that either. I thought maybe it was the color, so I tried a different color. You'll see I tried quite a few different experimentations before I worked out that what I like is a second generation stamping of the solid, and then using the same colored ink to do the outline. So it just gives me a slightly lighter inside and that's more solid outline, which I guess because it's orange, that's why I like it. It's not quite as intense and in your face. So that's what I did for my title. I'm not going to show you because I needed my head directly over that to line it up properly. And all I'm doing is adding a little heart in between and calling my spread done. I will leave all the links down below for the Extravagant Hope kit and the stamps that I used from Feed Your Craft. I really love Brandi's work. I'm sure you do too, so make sure you go and support her. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!